Happy Halloween weekend and welcome to GM Tips Part 2. This one, the second one, will be on GM Tips Lost Empires. And again, Lost Empires are an interesting concept for a campaign. We have a lot of Lost Empires on the world in the real world. You have Atlantis, you have Pompeii, you have, uh, what do they call it? Gomorrah. You have many other lost empires that are around that bring question marks. When you look at some of the lost Egyptian empire items, when you look at the lost Incans and Mayans, when you go to their temples, when you see their advancedness, it brings about just a set of wonder and a set of trying to figure out what was this empire? Why did they exist? And what did they bring to the world? And what can we get from them? And is there something we can take away that will help us in our current time and place? What are mistakes they made that we don't want to make? What are some hidden things that we'll run into that could be world affecting items? Again, all these type of things are amazingly fun in a campaign, and they can really, it almost becomes an Indiana Jones type of situation, but not necessarily. You're not always necessarily treasure hunters. Sometimes it's question marks, or someone is trying to find out more about this lost empire and how it affected the land in the area, and why did things turn out the way they did. So keep in mind, when you're doing a Lost Empire, look at your world. I mean, so many of the pre-made worlds have them. If you look at worlds like Golarion for Pathfinder, or you look at Greyhawk, or you look at Ghostwalk, or you look at a lot of these other type of ones like Faerun, they have lost empires, whole lost empires. Uh, Again, the mythal that's in the Faerun Empire and how it made cities fly, and how it affected things. On Greyhawk, there are so many lost empires that have risen and fallen. In Golarion, there's so many different ones. There's Golgon, and the Jitska Imperium, the old Osirian, the jungle empires of the Shori and the Shori cities, the sunken Lyrgan Empire that the Lyrgani were a part of, that was destroyed in the Eye of Abendigo, and also the Aslanti and the Aslanti effect and the cataclysm that went on, the Aboleth, the Sagothi, the hidden empires that are underneath the realms that have gone to decay that were there. The lost Hallett tribes and how they worshiped the old gods and what effect that had on their cities and empires like Sarkoris. There are so many places that you can work with. And the great part about, even if you design your own campaign, put in some lost and hidden empires, places that are ruins now that once were amazing places. The lost keep of Greyhawk itself and how it affected the world, and just all the things that you can go and do inside of Greyhawk itself, Greyhawk Keep. It's amazing what you can do, and the secrets that these places hold. It will draw players in. It's a big question mark. It's a mystery. It's not necessarily you're having to defeat a baddie. So to go against my other one, you may not have a major villain in this. It may be just simply a mission of knowledge or a mission of mapping and understanding things. Your characters don't necessarily have to destroy everything they come across. They may be discovering a lost history that was just expunged from the world that they had no knowledge of other than the name. And they knew something was tied to it, but what it was. It could have been that your civilization and your fantasy world fell from a sci-fi race and just decayed back to fantasy and magic, or it transcended and moved above technology to this type of realm. Terry Shannara, or Terry Good, or Terry Brooks. I get him and Goodkind mixed up. Sorry to the two authors. Terry Brooks in the Shannara series. It takes place after the fall of humanity in the earth. And this is what resulted from it, is a return back to an age of wonder as the elves reappeared and the humans mutated into other creatures. like the gnomes and the dwarves and some of the others. So it's interesting how all of this can tie in together, and it doesn't have to be that straightforward history that everybody has come to expect. You can really make your world unique and interesting that way. So keep that in mind. Now, what's important about a lost empire? Number one, what is its history? So you as a GM have to write out some of the key facts of that empire that may or may not be known by the world. So map out its timeline. Sit down and make yourself a simple timeline of the years of its existence. Now, maybe it's before the calendars were ever written of this age. So it's a before time, and you put in significant events like its infancy, its rise, where it was, what kind of technology. Were they a god-driven empire and goddess? Were they an agnostic one? Were they more anti-theist? Did they grow beyond their deities? Did they grow to a point that maybe another race raised them up out of a primitive race, and then they got a little big for their britches and tried to take out the adult race, the race that made them, and that race decided we're done, and that's the world-ending event or the event that ended their empire for them. There's a lot of things you can write, and knowing that and writing that in is going to be important, especially when your characters want to understand it. Don't just stick in a lost empire and have no history. It will frustrate your players, and it will take away the impact of that empire. You want to have a history. So when you're creating your campaign around this, write out that history. Put in those key events, those key figures, the key names. What was the name of the empire? What languages did they speak? What type of items did they have? What kind of lost items are still alive and well in that ruins? Are there creatures that have evolved that this race? So like with the Aslanti, some of them became Morlocks and on the world that is Golarion. So they are actually a subterranean version of themselves that has reverted from what they knew. And so they've gone backwards in their evolution. It's an interesting thing, but you can really devolve a race. And remember, the Morlocks were a part of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. And they were us. They were what we devolved to after the world came to an end. So keep in mind that you can do a lot with this and the creatures and the offshoots. But you got to write this out, because if you don't have this, it's really going to be hard for you as a GM to run. And it's going to be hard for your players. What type of advances were available? I think that's the thing you got to put in there. And then what do you want to allow your players to have? Is it in a semi-okay state? Is it more in a broken, decaying state that, yes, it still kind of works, but not like it used to? It has horrible effects if the players don't know what they're doing with it, and it could easily become a time bomb in their hands. These are things you want to kind of put out there. Maybe you put in some little tidbits and advances in medicine and things that they wanted to do. And so, for me, I love writing those kind of things out and putting them there. So you want some maps maybe of the area where this city or empire has gone down. If it's islands, put in areas and little caves or ruins of cities that they can go into and really explore. And then put these items interspersed in there. So they're like clues and hidden things that'll tell them bits and pieces. You might have some written knowledge that has survived that gives them a clue into things and gives them a little bit of an advancement that they wouldn't have had otherwise. Um, what hazards are there? Was it a nuclear detonation that took it out? Was it a plague? Was it a virus? Was it magic? Was it a rift into another plane that poured, like Sarkoris, that poured demons in? What caused the fall? Is it Cthulhu-esque? So there's a pervading kind of Cthulhu magic, that an insanity that runs through it. These are things you kind of want to put in there too, because the hazards are going to be real key as your players try to go through things. And don't make it always easy. In the beginning, yes, when they're low level, you might start it out with a little easier. They're on the outskirts of that empire. So what's there is not as devastating. But as they get higher level, it becomes more and more impactful. And it's something that could literally be life or death for them. And again, it doesn't have to be something technological. It could be something, it could be an old magic or an old philosophy. I know one friend's running a campaign in a Vale, and that veil has a lot of secrets. And maybe some of those secrets are hidden within the decline of these empires, or maybe some of these creatures were more advanced and then devolved backwards. So their knowledge is there, it's just hidden. And I love that kind of aspect of the devolution, and they lost what they had. That is a really interesting and unique thing. That's why I love the Golgon empires, yeah, with the Cyclopses in Golarion. For me, it's just the coolest thing in the world, because more so than even the Osirian empires and the Jitska Imperium and the Ruin Lords, these creatures really advanced. They were oracles and seers, and they reached pinnacle levels, but it also drove them quite insane. And they got the dark things seeped in and basically poisoned them. So what started as good then merged into the poisons. And your players may not know where that point is. So they might find that really good knowledge that's helpful and can help them to advance as an empire, but then you really bleed in a little bit of the insanity that once they start playing with it can take hold and really challenge them. I mean, as a player, how do you overcome insanity? How do you overcome just the warping of your mind by what you read? You don't. It's pervasive. It's just subtle in how it goes through, but it pervades through everything. And it makes that fabric a challenge for that player. So that's another challenge. In reading that knowledge, what is it going to do to them? How will it affect them? Will it affect them? Will they find some rituals that they try that will literally unleash things that they never thought and will challenge them to the nth degree? So keep that in mind as you look at that and as you build that empire. That's all part of that. Also, what is left? What are the ruins like? Are they all above ground? Are they subterranean? Are they both? What's in the ruins? Are there mutated forms of the empire that was there? Is there just death? Is there ghosts and haunts? What what challenges and creatures await the party when they go in there? And knowing that and writing that out is real key. In one of my recent campaigns, the party went into an old Cyclopean Golgon outpost that was put there, and they went to the old bridge that tied them into another major trade realm. Well, there's a lot of ghosts due to the plagues and a lot of evil. And they came to find that there was more there than meets the eye, that there was a cult devoted to a old god that was not good, that had pervaded its way into that location and was the downfall that led to the plagues and other things that killed off the population and drove it insane. So there are things that if you do this right and you play this out right, it intrigues your players and it just confounds them. And that's what you want to do. You always want to have a little bit of that taste of mystery. Because think about it, when you find those things, it's like when we found the lost empire of Atlantis here on the Earth. There are so many question marks and mysteries, and why did they place these here? Why was this created? Did this have to do with this? Maybe they were a seagoing empire that had this go with this. And so there's so much that comes up and so many question marks as to how our humanity rose from its infancy. Were there people that were more advanced than us, that were way ahead of us, that died off? Hard to know. But it will intrigue your players to no end. Were the players part of another empire? Did this empire come out of an empire? In other words, was there a serpent empire beforehand? A lot of people say because the dinosaurs, they lead into serpent empires. So maybe the progenitors were serpents, or maybe they were the aboleths, or maybe they were other creatures that wanted to get onto the land but couldn't. So they took humanity and raised it up so that they could view through their eyes. Could be intellect devourers, could be illithids, could be other things that come into play. Maybe they were energy-born creatures that didn't have a body, so they would go in and inhabit the body of that empire and those people and raise them up to another level. See, there's so much you can do with this, and it's such a cool thing. And the other thing you put in there, what kind of hidden rituals, magic, or technology advances do you want the players to discover? Will it significantly impact your world, or will it just be another nice find? Will it lead to advances that wouldn't have been there otherwise? Will they go down the same path as the empire that fell? Because again, sometimes history dooms you to repeat yourself. So again, as you set out all this stuff, this is all things you want to put in there. Maybe you create some new spells and magic. Maybe you create some new technologies. It doesn't always have to be the most devastating technology. It can be something pretty simple. So think about that as you're going through. What do you want the players to discover, and why are they there? Maybe it's an old gate that leads to a different realm or a different dimension. Maybe it's a stargate. you know, there's just so much. I, I love it because the ideas are limitless that you can do for this. And as a GM, it's the gift that keeps on giving. You can have campaign after campaign after campaign and sets of parties going in, because it will take hundreds of years to figure it all out. And so it's a reason that keeps bringing people. And maybe eventually it becomes your crowning pinnacle of your party. Keep these things in mind as you look at this and as you do this. These are the things about Lost Empires that are so intriguing. And maybe there's undeath, maybe there's some ones that live, maybe there's some capsules and things that preserve them. Maybe it was magic that preserved them. Maybe their brains were preserved. Maybe they're in creatures like with some of the Ruin Lords. They're in creatures that are automations. They're advanced automations that have the brain function and everything else and the personality. Maybe they did genetic cloning and there's clones there. Maybe you open it and their clone comes back. See, there's so much you can do with this that is just interesting and unique. And the great part of it is the surprise on your players. For all of you that have players that think they know everything, this is where you take them that they don't. It's unfamiliar, uncharted ground. It's like when the Star Trek Enterprise started going out, or the first Enterprise under Archer or under Picard or under Kirk went out on their 5-year mission. They didn't know what they were going to find. It's the undiscovered country. They don't know. And each thing could be more powerful than them or could be less powerful. What do you do? What decisions do you make? How do you impact things? It isn't just about looting. It's about, wow, okay, now what do we do? We're in a place that few have tread, and those who have may not have been successful. How do we not follow their path to ruin? How do we follow the path the right direction? Even in a campaign like Deadlands, it could be an ancient shamanistic thing for the Native Americans that they found that they didn't realize was there until they found it. So the genre, again, doesn't matter. I love the fantasy genre because it bleeds into it well. I think it balances things because it is a true unknown. They're not going to know what they're walking into, and they're not always going to know how to use it. Whereas in a more technologically advanced civilization, they kind of will. But again, look at, like, for instance, the Agents of Shield, where they came upon the alien ruin that made the Inhumans. They didn't know how to deal with it. They still don't know how to deal with it. They're still dealing with it. You could do something like that in a Mutants and Masterminds that just changes the whole fabric of things and mutates your characters into things that they didn't expect before, or evolves them or changes them genetically. There's so much you can do with this. And I love it because Lost Empires bring something to the table, especially if they were powerful ones or pinnacle ones or hub empires, because there's something that has affected time and the reality of things and driven civilization forward, but there was always a loss when that happened. So this can be a rediscovery. And so when you're designing a campaign, keep all those things in mind. Those are really the key things. What's the history, the timeline? What were the major events? Who are the major figures? What kind of traps are there? What is the location of what's left? What type of ruins? What is the party going to find knowledge-wise or otherwise? Are there creatures or other aberrations there that weren't there before? Are there ghosts? Are there other things? Are there things they can unlock and bring back to this time in reality that they didn't know about? Are there robots that will come out? Are there other things they're going to unleash that the world just isn't prepared for? This is the fun. And this is where you get to really get those creative juices going. And you can pick a part of the world where there's maybe a small town or city, and all you have to focus on is that Lost Empire area. And that's the fun. I can't wait. Paizo, in fact, is going to be doing a whole adventure path on the Lost Empire of Aslanti, as well as the Sunken Empires of the Lurgani. And I am excited about that because there is so much you can do and so far you can go with that your players can be there for years playing it, and they may never get tired of it. So keep that in mind as you're GMing things. These are some fun things you can do, and you can adapt it again to any genre and system. You can be lost alien races, lost alien worlds. You could do all kinds of different things. Lost planes. There's so much you can do, and there's so much creativity there. Don't think that you've exhausted all your ideas. Lost Empires will give you something new to play with. It's a new toy for you as a GM, as a DM, and really utilize that and make your party come away going, wow, afterwards, and wanting to go back for more. All right. Have a great Halloween weekend. I hope you have much celebration and enjoyment and mirth, and I will talk to you again soon.